What you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Carolina Barbecue Festival 2026 was the biggest and best yet. That's thanks to our sponsor partners, our pitmasters, and everyone who attended. You raised money for Operation Barbecue Relief while celebrating the diverse blend of barbecue flavors that make up Charlotte and the Carolinas. Special thanks to our partners who helped bring the heat to the Queen City, including Charlotte's Got a Lot, Texas Pete, Coca-Cola, Ben E. Keith, Kingsford, Inland Foods, Ryobi, U.S. Foods, Turtle Box, Good Stock by Nolan Ryan, Smithfield, Certified Angus Beef, Fun Outdoor Living, and Truliant Federal Credit Union. For more details on our regional brands and partners, please visit CarolinaBBQFest.org and stay tuned for details about our upcoming fall pig picking and our 2027 barbecue festival. All that coming soon. Coming today is pork belly burnt-ins, pulled pork from whole hogs and shoulders, ribs, brisket fried rice, sausages, and redfish. Wow, what a weekend of barbecue in Uptown Charlotte. Our friends Lewis, Sweet Lou Donald, Aaron Hunter, and the Let's Meet Charlotte team, and a whole bunch of volunteers, pitmasters, and people. They all turned up for 5 straight years of Carolina Barbecue Festival and have created an unbeatable barbecue event for the South. Thank you so much for giving the Queen City another crown jewel and the Carolinas another fantastic festival focused on raising money for a great cause, Operation Barbecue Relief. Today, we're kind of basking in the afterglow of the festival, if you couldn't tell, and we're going to talk about it, the best bites, the experience, and all the great barbecue people that we connected with over the weekend. I'm Chigger Willard. You're listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show, and I was so fortunate to meet and talk with almost every pitmaster on the scene for the weekend, Friday and Saturday. I was so fortunate to spend 2 days sampling the best barbecue bites from almost 30 pitmasters collected all together in Charlotte's Uptown Charlotte's Victoria Yards. So please be sure and visit the Low and Slow Barbecue Show Instagram page. We've got videos, and many of the pitmasters and pictures of their great barbecue bites are all there. You'll also find videos on our Low and Slow Barbecue Show YouTube page. We've got some videos, pit side interviews, and a whole library of stuff from our podcast interviews to that pit side footage with the folks tending the fire and making the good food happen all weekend. More details, blogs, photos, they're on the way to lowslowbbqshow.com. They'll be there, so stay tuned. And you can subscribe to the free Low and Slow Barbecue Show newsletter. We'll deliver links to the freshest content, barbecue news, and event details right in your email inbox. And just find the newsletter sign up at lowslowbbqshow.com. On to the festival. I'll get to the best barbecue bites in just a moment. First, I want to talk about the overall experience of the 2 days. The kickoff Friday night in Uptown Charlotte is always a great start. It's fun to be in Uptown as the sun's setting and the fires and the buildings start to light up into the night. It's also a nice time to be around some of the featured pitmasters that are all part of Saturday's event. Most of them are kind of off duty on Friday, out mingling among the guests with their families, and they seem to welcome greetings and conversations there as the festival's kind of warming up. Other of those pitmasters are already starting to get their barbecue cooking going. I kind of like to sneak behind the cooking spaces during the evening and catch a glimpse of all those big rigs, the Grillzilla that the Operation Barbecue Relief team hauls around. And of course, everybody's got their TMG pits getting set up out there. Happened to catch County Smokes Ken Hess. He was started up cooking briskets Friday afternoon, and by nighttime, he was wrapping those briskets with the help of his dad. And Ken's son was there too, running food and helping out throughout the whole weekend. While we talk about family, a lot of the pitmasters have their kids out at the festivals. Friday night, some of the younger ones took on the mechanical bull. That's right. They were up there riding it in a big padded kind of ring. And I will confess I was strongly tempted to test the bull, but wisdom prevailed, thank goodness. Otherwise, I might have spent the weekend in the hospital, not at the barbecue festival. Some of the bigger kids, they're working. Lewis Donald's boys are always in the middle of the whole hog cooking, the pit building, and some of the grunt work is required at the festival. And I think I saw Tank Jackson's kids were there too. The Letchworth family normally brings a bunch of their young people along as well. And of course, the Big Brisket, Keith Henning and their family. A lot of good family environment. And it's cool to kind of hang out with all those peoples in a relaxed element before they really start to go to work on the smokers on Saturday. Now, throughout the night, about 600 people were on the scene for the kickoff. They called it the Queen City Smoke because it was featuring 5 Charlotte area pitmasters serving up some really fantastic barbecue bites. There were great beverage, and it was just a night among friends, and always a great way to welcome the weekend, whether you plan to attend on Saturday or not. In fact, for some folks, the Saturday spent at a festival might take a pretty big time investment in the spring. I know you want to get out in the garden in spite of all the pollen and get things growing. I get it. The kickoff is a great way to spend an evening and get just maybe a smaller taste of the barbecue spirit. Keep that in mind for next year. There's always a few surprises on Friday. It's nice to tuck into those and experience that in the evening in Uptown Charlotte. I'll talk more about the Friday night barbecue bites in just a moment, but first an update on the serving style of Friday. This year, the kickoff used a punch card with the hope of one person, one bite until everybody's served, and maybe seconds after that. I think they can probably help quantify the amount of food that's needed for the festival. The kickoff, by the way, it did sell out, but in the end, I'm not really sure how well the punch card system worked. You know, that requires additional volunteer management to man a station and punch a card all night. It's a catch a drink of water. You can tell I use my voice a lot over the weekend. But you got somebody out there punching a card all night. If you take that punch card idea to Saturday, there's 25 stations and somebody's punching cards everywhere, kind of like they do at Pinehurst on a much larger scale. By the way, they use the punch cards over Labor Day at Pinehurst. You know, if you do that, you control the food cost, but how do you affect the experience? And I was concerned that going into Saturday, I was really kind of curious that the punch card idea would come back. And it did not. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I was glad for it. I think it was maybe. Let's talk about Saturday. It was a lot. I mean, a lot. So much good food, so many barbecue bites. I think the event was billed as more than 20 pit masters. Of the official number, maybe it was 22, but there's always so many other people around cooking. There's extra bites out there. And more coming up on my strategy for tackling all those bites and dessert, by the way. But if you think that outside the 22 or so restaurants that are represented, then you add the TMG Pit Bunch. By the way, they bring a whole crew of people working a handful of smokers and live fire cookers all on display. And I mean, they are just cooking. That's a lot of food there. Now, the TMG Pit guys, by the way, it's always super cool to see. Last year, they cooked an alligator, excuse me. They cooked an alligator. This year, they showed off their big coal mine fire table, a Santa Maria grill. Our barbecue friend Joey Diapici was manning a couple of those whole hog cookers on those fire stations. In fact, barbecue friend told me that the big coal mine table went home with him. Look for it around town in Charlotte. If you don't already, follow TMG Pits on Instagram. You can see a lot of the pictures of the grills and the pits and the fire stations that we're talking about here. Really some super cool stuff. Even if you're not looking to buy a smoker, they do some cool stuff, cool work. It's nice to see all the things they can do with metal. And while we're talking about the TMG Pit guys, and all that open fire around one corner of the site. By the way, you could feel it Friday night in that same area. Sam Jones's barbecue guys, they were out there firing up the burn barrels in the same space. That corner of Victoria Yards was going to be the hot box for Saturday. You could see it coming on Friday, and unfortunately, it was. And the whole site Saturday was. It was a hot box. A really, really warm day for Charlotte in April. And while there's tents around, there's not a lot of shade around the big parking lot area of Victoria Yards, except for maybe maybe there's just one cool corner under a big shade tree. And if you think about it appropriately enough, they had Brian Furman, Jake Wood, John G., Elliot Moss as smoke support man, the pro Kyle Sutton, and the Southern Soul Barbecue Gang. They were all stationed right there under the shade of a big oak tree or two. In fact, maybe next year number 6, that's what we call it. That's the cool corner gang. Don't break it up, Sweet Lou. I know you're listening. Furman, Wood, Kirkman, Elliot Moss and Kyle Sutton, Harrison Sapp and Griff Buffin of Southern Soul. That's the cool corner in the shade. So that's where you wanted to be. Their food was obviously really good there. The food was good, but the shade was good too. So it was hot, but we're barbecue people. That's not a huge problem. There was shade available everywhere, maybe in other corners, and come and go. The come and go nature of the festival also lets you kind of seek out a cool spot outside the premises somewhere in Charlotte. I went into my car to cool off one time. And then you can come back to the festival and enjoy it. Also, the festival provided free water, which was really nice to have. Everybody stayed nice and hydrated. I think just limited problems. The festival also provided each of the pit masters with this little mist blowing fan that you put on top of a bucket of water. It creates a little cool zone inside their hot pit areas. That's nice for the pit masters, maybe saddle up beside them. I did notice, however, that Dylan Cook and his man Troy, they stayed close to their smoker all despite the heat. They were right up on their TMG pit all evening or afternoon, despite how hot it was. And I think the readout in my car said 104 degrees late in the afternoon. Now, that's on the parking lot, and you never can tell with those thermometers in your cars, but it seemed like it was hot. And I think maybe that affected the late afternoon hangout. It might not have continued as long as it normally would. The VIP crowd and the early gates folks really did fill up the space early for a few hours there between 11 and probably 2 o'clock or so. It was packed. I mean, it was hopping in there for a few hours. That said, there was never really a line throughout the course of the whole afternoon. There were more pit masters. They were spread out. There were more food options. I think that kind of thinned out the large crowd. And the Victoria Yards is a pretty good sized space. So you spread all that out across a large space. It offered a lot of food for people that maybe hit their favorites first and limited the rest of their bites. Again, 22 bites, you may not get everywhere. So again, I think that explained why maybe the lines weren't there as they have been in the past. So that's a good thing. You can always tell that the barbecue festival folks are improving their strategy and their process for doing this all along. Speaking of strategy, there's a strategy for eating all of this stuff too, or again, most of it. It takes that strategy to even eat most of it. And I'll admit, I didn't eat at every tent. I did get to most. So here's my strategy. You start light, maybe think about fish, pace yourself, maybe think about dessert. Save the heaviest, that beef and cheddar and the pimp link from Old Colony Smoke. I saved those for last. Oh my gosh. Master Blend Family Farms had an entire sweet potato with pork in it. That's a lot. Save it for the end of the show. And I did, and I'm glad I did. Save those things to the last. You can hit your favorite bites first, or dessert as many times as you want to early. I recommend that. Or you might want to go to what you think might be most popular. Like I said, that most popular tent's usually John G. and his beef ribs. This year, Garen switched it up. He brought the brisket fried rice. It was just as popular, but it served a lot faster. The line moved more. There were more options. John G., mind you, is still working just as hard slinging that rice back there on the flat top, but it kept the food moving through pretty quickly. So, now that we're talking about eating and getting all the food in this, let's go on and get to the best barbecue bites of the festival, and I've got a few of them. These are based largely on my own personal preference, but talking to the folks around the festival and my friends, the barbecue family, other pit masters, maybe other patrons who were there, there were some fairly consensus picks, and believe it or not, they largely align with what I was kind of thinking as I came away from 2 nights of the festival. So I'm going to serve them up in no particular order. I want to remind you, this episode of the Low and Slow Barbecue Show is sponsored by the Carolina Barbecue Festival. The festival's success this year and every year comes thanks to our volunteers and our pit masters and, of course, our partners. They bring the heat to the Queen City. Those partners include Charlotte's Got a Lot, Texas Pete, Coca-Cola, Ben E. Keith, Kingsford, Inland Foods, Ryobi, U.S. Foods, Turtle Box, Good Stock by Nolan Ryan, Smithfield, Certified Angus Beef, had a big black cow, as they always do, the big inflatable cow from Certified Angus Beef, Creating You, and Fun Outdoor Living, and True Reliant Federal Credit Union. Thank you to all those partners. For more details on other sponsoring regional brands and partners, visit the CarolinaBBQFest.org. Stay tuned there as well for details about the upcoming fall pig picking. There's going to be a 2027 barbecue festival just before you know it. And the fall pig picking will be here soon too. There's other stuff coming as well. We'll share all that with you. You can find it at CarolinaBBQFest.org. Now, sharing, speaking of, the first of our favorite bites, they came Friday night. 5 pitmasters from Charlotte, Midwood, Max, Union Barbecue, Barbecue King, and the Improper Pig. They were good. I mean, they were all good. When they're all good, you got to think about multiple factors. And for me, a lot of times that's ease of use. How much am I likely to spill it down the front of my shirt? That goes along with the flavor and all those other things. With that in mind, Midwood's bite was the best in my mind. Had a few other people tell me that too. My man Matt Berry really delivered double smoked burnt-in street tacos with tallow chimichurri and pickled red onions. Man, the chimichurri really put it over the top, and so did the ease of use. Maybe a little bit easier than Max Speed Shop's brisket tostada. Really good for Max, but it was that chip. I couldn't handle it well. I'm a big baby. I'm going to spill on myself, and I don't like to. Other bites in that lineup, again, they were all really good, but Midwood kind of stood out above the rest. Also want to give a special shout out to my man Holden Sasser. His Union barbecue pickles, the sweet pickled cucumbers, also got some attention. I enjoyed them quite a bit. Heard some other people talk about, wow, those pickles were really something, and they were. So moving on to Saturday, and again, in no particular order, and out of 22-3 plus the TMG Pit Skies, there's hard to pick a singularly best bite. Out of 5 at the kickoff, maybe I can pick a best bite. Maybe Midwood was the best there by a whisker. But out of 20 different folks, it's going to be too hard to pick. So I just want to list off some of my favorite Saturday bites, starting with the pork belly burnt ends from Fort Grove Barbecue. They had this sweet Thai chili glaze, some crispy little onions, and a cowboy candy, the candied jalapenos, all there on top. Man, it was a perfect cook on those burnt ends, nice and firm. Been getting a lot of good bites out of those pork bellies lately, and Dylan always delivers a solid performance. So that was one of my favorite bites. I got it early on too. I wish I'd gone back to it again. I did not. Another newcomer to the festival, Bob Roberts from Redwood Smoke Shack in Norfolk, Virginia. He also had pork belly in his space, twice smoked gochujang, and I'm sure I said that wrong. Gochujang? Yeah. Twice smoked gochujang glazed pork belly burnt ends with creamy chopped slaw. Are you noticing a pattern here? Yeah, the pork belly was kind of a running thing around festival weekend. And in fact, I ran into one pitmaster Saturday. He told me he'd kind of burnt out on the burnt ends, or rather the pork belly. And he's been staying away from it for a while. Well, now this weekend, he's got back into it, and maybe it was a really good time to get back in touch with pork belly. So I know he did. Also new to the festival this year, but maybe not so new, Michael Letchworth from Fox Hollow Outdoors. Of course, he's got his history with Sam Jones Barbecue. Before that, Skylight Inn. And so obviously Michael Letchworth is familiar to the festival, but this time here with Fox Hollow Outdoors. And he brought fish, not cow, not chicken, not pig, but redfish on the half shell with a sesame veggie salad on the top. Oh, it was so nice and light and great flavor on it. Perfect. I love a piece of cooked fish on the fire over the flames. My man there from Pitt County was helping him out. Michael Letchworth, also kind of from that area. Obviously, they were doing some good things with that redfish, and it was a good way. One of the early bites for me in the festival, it was one of those light early bites I got a chance to taste. I also got a chance to meet Michael's young son Larkin. If you follow Michael on his Instagram page, you'll see Larkin up there quite a bit, and for good reason. They make a great team together. I talked to Larkin as I do some of the pitmasters. This was off camera, but I asked him, Larkin, what are you looking most forward to? And Larkin was most looking forward to selling something. He was manning the merch tent for Dad and Fox Hollow Outdoors, and he was looking forward to selling something. Came back around later in the afternoon. My man was out there slinging it, selling everything he could, and doing a good job with, oh, by the way, you wanted to get one of these too? Yeah. Nice job, Larkin. So he's on the sell. Great to see Michael, and really enjoyed his bite out there. Of course, at the festival, I always love County Smoke and his brisket pastrami and the fire and ice pickles. I always love Lexington Barbecue and Sam Jones. Again, John G's brisket fried rice was great. But if I'm keeping the best barbecue bites list short among the familiars, Brian Furman's ribs are always on it. He brings a peach mustard sauce. You eat a rib like Brian Furman's. It's not fall off the bone. It's firm. It's got a crispy outside. It's tender and juicy in the middle. A little bit of that sauce. Doesn't need it, but a little bit of that sauce. Really good. Always love Brian's ribs. And he outdid himself once again this year. So always on the best of list for me. And by the way, he says he's the only pitmaster to be at all 5 festivals for the Carolina Barbecue Festival. So he's the OG, original OG. Ron Simmons said he was providing hogs the first year, but Furman, the first pitmaster, or going all the way back to among being the first, only pitmaster there for 5 years. Moving on. As long as Furman brings ribs, I'm going to eat them. And as long as Ben Hooper brings moon pie banana pudding, I'm always going to eat it and probably include it in my favorites list. And yes, it was my second bite of the day. And maybe I did go back for a couple of bites, but it's really good. I can't recommend it enough. It's so light and sweet, and the moon pie brings just the right little bit of texture and consistency in there. It's really nice. By the way, shout out to Ben's Backdraft. I've been wearing a shirt today celebrating Ben and his wife Bailey and the birth of their baby girl, Maggie Rose. Ben says on his Instagram page, they barely got the festival in before the little lady decided to come on along, I guess, Sunday. So congratulations to the Hooper family and Ben's Backdraft Barbecue on the birth of their new child. Congratulations to Jake Wood as well. Maybe not such as big congratulations, but Jake's had one of my favorite bites at the barbecue festival, as he does usually. He brought the smoked party wings with beef fat caramel, and you could choose the ancho honey, and I chose one of each, but for me, the beef fat caramel was great. And I mean, Jake can cook a wing. It had a great smoke flavor on it. It was nice and done, but not dry. The glaze it had, and it came with like a little pepperoncini pepper. Oh man, it was so good. Again, Jake and Furman and John G over in the corner of the shade. I might have stayed a little too long and worn out my welcome eating their food over there. Eric Pickles Tennessee live fire pork steak with hot mustard barbecue glaze, also really good. So is Adam Hughes's pimp leek sandwich. Saved that towards the end of the day. A jalapeno cheddar sausage with pickled red onion. Hold the pimento. Again, end of the day, I was starting to get full. Both of those really, really good. But I got to pick a final favorite pick. And it's going to go to Anthony DiBernardo's beef and cheddar sandwich. It's just like you might think of as that fast food restaurant with the beef and cheddar, only probably 10 times better. So Anthony from Swig and Swan Barbecue has a chuck roll sliced thin with melted jalapeno, pimento cheese, pickled red onion on a soft onion roll. And I got to confess, I was interviewing Anthony at the very beginning of the festival, and I wasn't ready to eat that big bite, but he handed it to me while I'm filming, and you can't not eat it. And so I did. And I wish I'd made it back around for another one, but I never did. Really nice bite. The pimento cheese at that part of the day was really good for me. There was a lot of pimento cheese around the festival this weekend too. I tried to avoid it, and maybe I didn't try to avoid it, but I leaned a little bit away from it. I mentioned Matthew Register; he had something similar going on at his, and he had a good bright bite. And Cray was standing in for him, and him and the Southern Smoke team always do a really nice job. Again, not one of my favorite bites. The pork tenderloin was really, really good. You can't pick. I mean, you can't pick and choose these things. Somebody's got to be the winner there. And sorry, but he also had it was a tomato gravy, I guess, is what was on Matthew Register's, which was a nice gravy bite. Right in there with some tenderloin. Okay, so maybe it was on my best list. Register backed into it because I felt guilty thinking about how good that bite was for me. So I mentioned I made it to Furman's and Jake's a couple more times. Good stuff. And not to disparage anybody else, I haven't mentioned all the bites were good. Every single one I had were good. These are just the ones that stood out at favorite. What do you think? You like my picks? Yes, no? Tell me about it. Send your votes to me in my unofficial poll. I'm not going to report it anywhere. Just want to know. Email me your favorite bites to Low and Slow Barbecue Show, all spelled out, at gmail.com. Low and Slow Barbecue Show at gmail.com. Tell me what you enjoyed, or maybe you want to email me an upcoming barbecue event and you know about, or your favorite recipe, or maybe you know somebody who would be a good guest on the podcast. Email me, Low and Slow Barbecue Show at gmail.com. I enjoyed meeting a bunch of our followers during the festival. Thanks for saying hello. I enjoyed passing out some stickers to folks, and it was great to make some new friends at the festival too. Appreciate you. If this is your first time listening, or if it's your 100th episode listening, I think we're over 110 now, or 11. Here's an invitation, maybe your 111 invitation, to visit our website, lowslowbbqshow.com. You'll find our blog, barbecue news. There's festival and event details. You can also sign up for our weekly newsletter. We deliver the latest Carolina barbecue news and schedules, fundraisers, all that good stuff to your email inbox on Tuesday. Sign up for the newsletter today, lowslowbbqshow.com. To our audience, again, who greeted us at the festival, thank you. To our audience today, thank you for listening to the Low and Slow Barbecue Show. If you like what you hear, please share our podcast with your food-loving friends, and be sure to give us a 5-star rating on your favorite stream. Don't forget, you can find pictures and videos from all the big barbecue events exclusively on our Instagram page. Just find Low and Slow Barbecue Show. You'll see a lot of great stuff from the Carolina Barbecue Festival, the kickoff, even from the barbecue brunch a little bit earlier in the spring. There's pit-side interviews. Beware, there's barbecue eye candy, and you'll want to go get some barbecue. Well, that's not such a bad thing. Check it out. Instagram page, Low and Slow Barbecue Show. The Low and Slow Barbecue Show would not be possible without the Mesh.tv network of podcast and our producer, Andrew Moose. We appreciate the support on this and every episode, which I'm always proud to host for you every week. I'm Sugar Willard for the Low and Slow Barbecue Show, reminding you that for the best barbecue and the best barbecue podcast, keep it low and slow.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.